Now that Anakin Skywalker has been confirmed to appear in Ahsoka, fans are speculating on just how he'll appear in the show. Now strap yourselves in because the new Anakin dialogue gives away more than we initially thought.
This is where the fun begins.
However, it could actually be leading us to more questions than answers.
What?
Let's start off by analysing the audio which I've removed the music from because I believe they come from at least 3 different scenes, and then we'll get into how these scenes could fit into the overall story and the other crazy surprises this could all lead to. So it doesn't come as a surprise that Anakin Skywalker is going to appear in Ahsoka. Reports initially surfaced well over a year ago now, confirming that he was in the show. It has to probably be the worst kept secret in recent Star Wars history. Rosario Dawson actually shared an Instagram post previously welcoming Hayden Christensen back to Star Wars, but then it was removed, and Rosario later confirmed that she was asked to remove it by what she called Star Wars, which either means Lucasfilm or Disney. The noise spread around so much that the question was actually posed directly to Hayden Christensen during the Obi-Wan Kenobi press tour last year. Now, looking back at this moment and knowing what we know now, it's actually quite funny, but I can't help but feel a little bit awkward for him.
Hayden, I've waited a long time to see your Anakin return, and now it's like a bus. I've waited so long and I get it twice now, because obviously you star in Obi-Wan Kenobi, but you're also filming for the Ahsoka series on Disney+. Now, between you and me, I won't even tell Ewan. He'll cover his ears, he won't know. What's different between that and Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Well, I don't know. I can't really speak to the Ahsoka series. I don't know about that one. Yeah.
So now we fast forwards over a year and we've just had the first official clue that Anakin is going to be involved in the show, with new dialogue being heard in the Force TV spot, although they still haven't officially announced it. It kind of feels like Dave Filoni wants to keep it a secret as he's not a fan of spoilers. So Lucasfilm said, right, we won't officially announce him, but then they go and put him in the trailer instead. As usual, Star Wars trailers aren't to be 100% trusted. They do like to clip different scenes together to point the audience in the wrong direction, but this is where us Star Wars fans really come to the forefront as we try our best to work out what's really going on. Now here's the original TV spot with Anakin's dialogue, and then we'll listen to it again without all of the music and the background noise. Now initially it is easy to get caught up in the nostalgia and the hype of it all, but after listening to the second version we're going to play, stripped of any noise, it becomes much more clearer, to me at least, that potentially this dialogue is coming from at least 3 different scenes.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became.
By the end of the Clone Wars, I walked away from him and the Jedi.
In this war, you will face more than just droids. As your master, it's my responsibility to prepare you. I won't always be there to look out for you.
I could use the help.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Don't be afraid. And trust your instincts. I know you can do this, Ahsoka.
Now we're going to take a listen to the stripped back version. Even the first section of Anakin's dialogue, up until the moment Ahsoka says I could use the help, comes from at least 2 different scenes in my opinion, with the words I won't always be there to look out for you, the third piece of dialogue, sounding different to the first 2, like it's being spoken in a different location altogether. The acoustics of the surroundings do sound slightly different.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became.
By the end of the Clone Wars, I walked away from him and the Jedi.
In this war, you will face more than just droids. As your master, it's my responsibility to prepare you. I won't always be there to look out for you.
Now, as I mentioned, the first 2 parts of the dialogue that you hopefully heard there, to me sound like a flashback scene of Anakin training Ahsoka, with the words that are being spoken sounding like he's trying to prepare her for the Clone Wars, with the last part of dialogue being spoken in that section I've played, taking place, I think, in a different location, likely coming from a scene when Anakin is simply talking to Ahsoka, perhaps giving her advice rather than physically training her. Now, I'm going to play the second part of the trailer stripped back, where you'll hear a much bigger difference in the dialogue. Anakin's tone in this second part is much lower, like he's standing considerably closer to Ahsoka, not needing to raise his voice so much. But what's more, the dialogue is slightly more echoey, which leads me to believe the dialogue we hear from now are actually from other scenes than the first part we heard. The first 2 lines spoken by Anakin are meant to encourage Ahsoka. This could perhaps be from another training scene, perhaps in a bigger room, or it could be a Force Ghost scene. Now, given how similar it is to the last line spoken in a TV spot, which I definitely think is a Force Ghost scene, where he tells Ahsoka he knows she can do this, which I think is likely something to do with her training Sabine, perhaps she's struggling, or her doubts over being able to stop the return of the Empire. So check this part out.
I could use the help.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Don't be afraid. And trust your instincts. I know you can do this, Ahsoka.
So taking into account what Anakin says in his TV spot and the differences we've already discussed, the first part I played of this stripped back trailer I believe comes from two different interactions between Anakin and Ahsoka, in the form of a flashback most likely, one being when Anakin is physically training Ahsoka, and the second being where he's probably talking to her, passing on his own wisdom. As we know, training isn't necessarily just physical. Then the second part of the stripped back trailer could easily be from a different training scene altogether and a Force Ghost interaction right at the end, or just the whole second part could be a Force Ghost interaction. It's hard to say for sure because they do sound kind of similar, but the last part of dialogue does still seem a little bit different to me. Just how these training scenes would fit into the current story remain to be seen. Perhaps Ahsoka could be remembering when she's faced with a similar situation in the current timeline what she learned from Anakin, or given we've had rumours of the world between worlds playing a part in the show, they could be viewed from there as well. Out of all of the possibilities of how Anakin could play a part in the Ahsoka show, the Force Ghost part has to be the most appealing to me. This would be the first time we've really seen Anakin since Return of the Jedi in terms of the timeline. Of course, we had that brief Force Ghost appearance in Return of the Jedi, but that was all, and we didn't hear him speak. Whilst we also heard him reaching out to Rey in Episode 9, that hasn't happened yet. He's also communicated with Luke, it's worth noting, in the books, but even they take place over 10 years after the events of the Ahsoka series. I just think it would be insanely cool if we heard Anakin's take on his fall to the dark side, and his opinion around the whole thing becoming Darth Vader and the rest of it. But looking forwards in the story, Anakin could still serve a number of purposes in the current timeline for Ahsoka and Luke. Being Luke's father and Ahsoka's master, it would be great to see the three of them interact on screen together. Although I've heard nothing of Luke's involvement in the show to date, it certainly can't be ruled out. He could help Ahsoka face the demons of her past, overcome her guilt of leaving him and the Jedi Order, and he would be there to help her move forwards into the next phase of her life, whilst also supporting her in her journey of being a master training an apprentice, which at this point seems to be Sabine Wren. Perhaps his involvement could also lead to her formally becoming a Jedi once more. Whilst for Luke, on the other hand, it would be great to see the father and son interact without the mask of Vader in the way, or Anakin's impending death looming over him. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, Luke and Anakin do interact, most notably in the Shadow of the Sith book, but even that's over 10 years in the future. And at the point of that book, it didn't seem like Luke interacted regularly with Anakin at that time, which I wouldn't cling too much to with Dave Filoni in charge of the Ahsoka show. We know he isn't someone who's afraid to change canon to serve, in his opinion, what would be a better story. So I wouldn't cling to what we've heard in any books at this point. But it does leave me with one question for you guys. Do you think Anakin will return as a Force Ghost in the Ahsoka show? Let me know in the comments what you think. Remember to subscribe to our channel if you're new. I'll catch you in the next one. May the Force be with you.